Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight on Quad's webinar, Writing Your Personal State, or Your Perfect Personal Statement, I should say. So before we formally get started, I do have a couple of housekeeping rules, so to speak. First and foremost, this webinar is recorded. What that means is that you will receive a recording in your inbox. We're looking at a day or two. You'll have the link. We encourage you to rewatch it, share it. It's yours to do as you see fit. As well, we're looking at running this webinar for about 45 minutes. 30 minutes is dedicated to content, and then we love giving you that opportunity to speak and get your questions answered by our expert panelists here tonight. So we will have a Q&A. Please feel free to write your questions in the chat box or in the Q&A box, and we'll try and get to as many of them as possible as we can. That's really it for me in terms of housekeeping rules and introductions. A little bit of an agenda. We'll do introductions, introducing you to our wonderful panelists. We'll be speaking about the importance of a well-crafted personal statement, proven strategies for brainstorming and outlining your personal statement, tips for crafting a compelling narrative and showcasing your unique voice, the do's and don'ts for writing a memorable and impactful personal statement, and of course, that question and answer that we just spoke about. So I'd love to pass it off to our experts to introduce themselves. Jesse, did you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Jesse. I have been a writing consultant for approximately 8 years now, and I earned my bachelor's degree from Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia, before I went on to get my JD and MBA from the University of Southern California. I know how difficult the college admissions process is. I remember it very clearly, actually, and I've also been assisting people for quite some time now in admissions for both undergrad and graduate programs. So I want to do whatever I can to assist you guys in this process. And yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Hi, everyone. I am Keisha. I have been a college application coach for about 8 years now. I've spent about 6 to 7 of those years really helping students craft excellent essays that they feel like show their authentic self and that they're proud of. I really enjoy this arena and this space of helping students. And before this, I was getting my graduate degree at Harvard University and my bachelor's at Wesleyan University. Excited to be here.
Thank you both for joining us tonight. Now, before I pass it off to both of you to begin the content, the bread and butter, I wanted to share a little bit about us and who we are at Quad, for those who are new or for those who might need a reminder about who we are and what we offer. Quad Education is a globally recognized college admissions consulting firm with the largest team of admissions counselors in the world. With a 98% success rate, our students are 11 times more likely to get accepted at their top college. We assist students from 6th grade to undergraduate transfer candidates in applying to their dream schools. We are firm believers in starting the college application process as early as possible. For our middle schoolers and early high schoolers, we offer college candidacy and profile development. This process focuses on building each student's resume to highlight their strengths. We want the candidate to stand out, so we work with our students to identify clubs and leadership positions, find extracurricular activities, and of course, volunteer opportunities, and assisting in creating next year's class schedule. Our college development program extends outside of the classroom and the regular school year. Since schools are looking at much more than academics these days, our counselors also help plan summer activities. These can include summer courses, internships, shadowing, research opportunities, and giving back to the community through encouraging students to create service projects, which most of our students do. Once we've helped shape an outstanding candidate, as we like to say, we extend our support in shaping the perfect application. We're here to help with comprehensive application support, from picking the right major to building a balanced list of schools, activity list creation, obtaining letters of recommendation, reviewing, interview preparation, of course, applying to scholarships. Our admissions counselors are also essay writing experts who will brainstorm, outline, and edit your supplemental essays as well as your personal statements. These essays serve as a platform to showcase the best aspects of our students, drawing connections between their individual life journeys and the overarching themes of each school that they are applying to. Whether it's your main application or those extra essays for scholarships, we've got your back with unlimited edits. Overall, our goal is to build the perfect candidate and application. We utilize every tool in our skill set to ensure the products we create with our students help them stand out from the rest of the pack. If you're interested in learning more about us and our packages, we also offer personalized free consultations via phone, email, video, ensuring individualized support. Our admissions counselors are always ready and willing to help you through the process, so you don't have to navigate it alone, no matter where you are in the process. With that being said, I'd love to turn it back to our wonderful experts to get on with the rest of tonight's webinar.
Awesome. So yeah, let's get started. The importance of a well-crafted personal statement. So let's just begin briefly with what is a personal statement. So an application is going to consist of various elements. It's going to have your letters of recommendation, it's going to have your resume, it's going to have your of course, personal statement and supplemental essays, if applicable, as well as everything else in your Common App. But what I would describe is the most important feature of the personal statement is the fact that it is an extension of sort of who you are. It's a statement of literally what you embody. And I say that because a lot of times I see clients, students who are applying, and their first draft of a personal statement will literally, it sounds like a regurgitation of the resume. It sounds like a laundry list of things that they've done before, but that's not really what the purpose is, because that's the purpose of the resume is to give you a brief overview of everything you've done. The personal statement is like a deeper dive into who you are, into like a particular experience or a moment that kind of defines what your goals are and how you envision yourself in college and in the future in terms of your academic interests and your professional pursuits. So as it says here, admissions officers use the personal statement to understand who you are, what motivates you, and how you might contribute to the campus community. It's like your stamp. And so that's why I think it's it's probably the most important aspect of your application besides GPA and besides that, I think this is the focal point. So very important.
And now we have a understanding of what a personal statement is. Let's talk a little bit about why it matters. And Jesse has already touched on some of those reasons. So one of the reasons that the personal statement is so important is it helps differentiate you from other applicants, right? The colleges, these places that you're applying to, they're getting lots and lots of applications coming in. And this is one of the best ways that you'll be able to really help build a strong personal statement and help stand out, right? So this is where you want to highlight something of a specific moment. You want to draw your readers in and really show them who you are by providing the context of your application. So we have the resume, we have all the information laid out on there. Let's go deeper into one of those elements and really show the reader of your application more about who you are.
Absolutely. So
and again,
go
ahead, Jesse. You go for it.
I was just going to say, as Keisha said, basically from the slide, and just to add on it, is the personal touch to your application, hence personal statement. So it really gives you a chance to let your personality shine through. And it's kind of corny to say, but it is the truth, which is that they're really looking for a fit for, a particular kind of student that they're looking for that aligns with the values of the university or the college that you're applying to. So, and that can be difficult to kind of parse through, define without, the help of an essay coach, for example, or someone with personal experience with that university or college. But that's why we're here, and we're excited to dive deeper into how you can really shape that into the best statement of who you are.
And here we have a real life example of something that has worked successfully for another student. And we're not going to read the whole thing out loud to you, but I encourage you to take a screenshot and have it be something that you refer back to later. but especially in this moment, paying attention to the very beginning of the essay. And we're going to talk about why this personal statement works so well, right? One of the things that you want to help develop in your personal statement is drawing the reader in from the very beginning. And one of the things that this essay did really well from the start was drawing the reader in and really captivating with the language that they used. That was very to the point, right? So the reader got in, they had a really good opening, and they wanted to go on to reading the rest of the story. They wanted to go on to read more about who this person was and how they were showing up and what kind of values they were representing. And that's one of the things that you want to be doing throughout your essay, and going over and reading that essay multiple times and making sure every part of the essay is doing that right from the beginning.
All right, awesome. So proven strategies for brainstorming and outlining your personal statement. So the first step with the personal statement is literally getting started. And that's sometimes the most difficult step, because there's so many ideas that you may have and so many experiences that you may want to talk about. Hence why I brought up before that some of my clients like to kind of just list everything that they've done, which is like, kind of the reverse of a personal statement, because it's giving you a very impersonal, like non-personal rundown of everything that you've done. So it's, I think, important to really think about, but not really necessarily focus on being in the mindset of like, oh, I'm going to just sit here and write it from start to finish, and that'll be my first draft. Usually that's not the case. The real, the most difficult part and why it's hard to get started is because your brain has so many thoughts. So the key is to just get them out there and start writing something, anything. It can just be words, phrases, something that has been on the tip of your tongue that you need to just get out of your brain and onto a piece of paper. And also be diligent with sort of the process. Definitely spend some time brainstorming, making sure that you're getting everything out there. There's like a saying or an idiom or something where it's like, you start when you're writing a paper, you start as like, the madman, where you're just dumping everything out. And then you become the architect, where you chisel away bits and pieces to refine it. And then you become like, I don't know, the hairdresser. I'm probably saying it wrong, but you get my point, which is that each stage of it becomes more and more refined until you get that polished final product. So at the beginning, don't worry about it being perfect. Just worry about getting something out there. But then make sure you break it into manageable steps. Using SMART goals, making sure that your goals are bite-sized and sustainable over a long period of time, because this is a long process from start to finish in terms of having your application in. And so pace yourself. Don't expect to have everything done in one day. Maybe every couple of weeks, have a deadline set for, when you want to have your personal statement topic selected. And then go on to say, now that you have your topic or like theme selected for your statement, what will be the pivotal experience that you're going to dive deeper into, and set a deadline for that. And then make sure that you set a deadline for when you want to have your first draft finished, and things of that nature, so that you're really going along the path. So I said free writing whatever comes to your mind. Don't worry about structure or grammar. As I said before, be the madman, get it out there. Mind mapping is really cool. I really like the idea. If you just Google mind map apps or something like that, I've used them before. I even used them in law school. I think it's really cool to just create charts that kind of link together certain things. Like you can write, maybe you want to write about swimming and how that relates to your interest in physics, and how that has led you to desire to major in physical therapy or something like that. I'm just making this up, but a mind map is a really great tool to kind of link together different ideas that may not seem to go together, but if you literally map it out, that logical connection may jump out at you, and you might be able to get it more quickly. And lastly, discuss ideas with friends and family. Talk through them with people around you. They'll give you honest feedback because they know you personally and they know what you've been through and who you are. And so they'll be able to tell you, okay, oh, this topic or this subject is definitely reflective of who you are, and it's an honest depiction of what you've been through and what you plan to do with your life. Or they'll be like, no, it doesn't represent you at all, you're just making this up. Because at the end of the day, you may not think so, but the person at the other side reading your application, like, I think that there's a degree of sort of so I think more likely than not, people who read your application essay will be able to kind of see through whether you're kind of lying or making something up, or if it's not genuine. And there'll be clues, and based on your resume and your other materials and your GPA and the classes that you've taken and stuff like that. And so it's best to be honest and to make sure that you run through these ideas with your friends and family to just make sure that it is reflective of who you are and it is a genuine pursuit. Because sometimes you may not even know that you're writing about something that you kind of imagined up, that you think that the admissions officer wants to hear, but is not true to who you are. And people can see through that. So just keep that in mind.
Yes, great point, Jesse. And before we move on, Jess, one of the things to really help you with that is the free writing, right? One of the ways to start showing up with your authentic voice is to start free writing. Start getting into the practice of journaling in the mornings or journaling at night, and not really putting too much pressure on what you're writing, but really showing up with a voice that you feel like is yours. And then when you transition doing these brainstorming techniques, when you're trying things like mind mapping and discussing the ideas with your family, it's going to feel more real and more personable to you because you spent time on your own practicing how to show up with your true voice. And something that Jesse said that is super, super important that we want to leave you with is a great personal statement is not going to be written in a day or a weekend, right? That's why we really want to spend some time with these brainstorming techniques, with the outlining that we'll talk about in just a little bit, because if it's something that you rush into while you're writing, that is also going to be very evident to the person on the other side that's reading. You want to spend time really crafting of the essay as much as you can, and that requires time to go through edits.
Absolutely, definitely.
All right, so after you've gone through some of those brainstorming techniques, then you have your outlining your statement, right? So getting to structuring your ideas logically. One of the things that we'll see a lot of the time, especially if students don't leave plenty of time for editing and crafting their essay in a really thoughtful and mindful way, is that they haven't really spent a lot of time structuring the ideas that well, and that comes across in the for the reader in how it's laid out, right? So really spend some time utilizing all those skills that you've been learning in high school, that introduction, that body, and that conclusion, and making sure that they're doing their job within the essay, right? When you're creating these very this clear structure within the essay, you're leading the reader, right? You're taking them on a journey with you into who you are in a type of way, and that requires a lot of clarity. Then with that, and then and as I've already mentioned, ensuring each section serves its purpose, right? If you're starting with the intro, make sure you're grabbing us right from the beginning and leading us through the body, and the conclusion is wrapping up everything that you wanted us to say, right? And we're not just regurgitating what is on the resume. We already know what's on the resume. Spend as much time as you can really editing each part of your outline, so that when it's coming to that final version, you've created something that is very cohesive and very easy for the reader to follow.
Amazing. Great points, Keisha. So, tips for crafting compelling narratives and showcasing your unique voice. So I guess starting from the basics, storytelling basics, a compelling story often includes elements of conflict, resolution, and personal growth. And that kind of reflects basically what I was saying before about picking and like a singular experience in which you had it's kind of like going through like the STAR story, which is like an interview tip that you learn in business school, which is like the situation, the task, and you kind of explain the resolution and what came about of the circumstances that you were put in, that you were placed in, and that kind of is reflected here in what is on the slide right now, which is that you want to have a point of where there's some kind of conflict that happened. You encountered an issue in your role as a camp counselor, or you were really struggling when you did your summer internship and you didn't understand how to use. It could be something as simple as like, not understanding how to use an Excel sheet, for example. But just make sure that it was something pivotal to that that was top of mind and is something that you really struggled to get through, but then you were able to overcome through your resourcefulness, through asking for help, through being enterprising, and explaining what steps that you took to overcome that dilemma. And it doesn't need to be like this groundbreaking dilemma, like the dilemma was that you needed to find a cure for cancer or something like that. Like that, you're not expected to have done all these things. It's something that should be significant or was significant to you and relevant to sort of, ideally it's going to be relevant to what you want to pursue in terms of your major and then eventually your career after graduation. It's going to be something that kind of ties. There needs to be a sort of like a nexus that weaves together all the elements of your application, who you are and what you want to do. So like the before, the present, and then the future. So all of these things, we're going to help you in our one-on-one consultations should you join us, and I hope you do, because this is a really important resource for you guys. But all of this will help you make your story all the more unique and all the more personal to present your specific perspective and experiences and what you would bring to the college campus. Needless to say, avoid generic statements, focus on details that are unique to you, personal anecdotes that make your statement more engaging and memorable, and really hone in on things that would that sort of defined, I guess, were a milestone or a pivotal moment in your life that you were like, oh, I really learned something from that. It was a struggle, but I overcame it, and I became that much better for it. Yeah.
Showcasing your voice. So you'll hear a lot writing authentically, but what does that mean? One of the things Jesse just highlighted is really leaning into a moment that was pivotal for you. And one of the ways to really develop an essay that draws the reader in is to going into that moment and really drawing the reader into being there in that moment with you, and then connecting that moment to your larger themes or goals. So this is something that you can also have been practicing in your journal, searching for those moments, writing about those moments, really developing language about those moments, and then using those moments to develop around your essay, let's say. And then doing that while avoiding cliches, so all of those overused phrases that we can see in the essay a lot, that when you read, you're like, do I really want to include that? You already know, and the answer is no, you don't want to include that. Spend a little bit more time just thinking around the words that you want to use and how for each sentence that you're going through, it's again relating back to the main goal and purpose of your essay. And using those specific moments and anecdotes to highlight various aspects of who you are and continuing to weave that into the overall general goals that you have for the essay.
Awesome. So connecting your story to your goals, how your experiences have shaped your aspirations. Make sure to reflect on how what you've done in the past, your experiences have influenced your goals and your aspirations. Show, not tell. So basically, like if you look back at that example, you'll see in the beginning it starts with a very strong imagery, and it's like a creative sort of attention grabber where you're really immersed in the moment of it's like you're try to have your the beginning part of your essay be sort of placing the reader in your shoes and presenting your journey as this immersive experience, which has led you to this point, because that is going to really set yourself apart from other more generic applications or essays, because again, you want it to be personal, you want it to be specific and unique to you. And like I said before, link your narrative to your future plans, because it's finding that the key really to the strongest essay, I believe, is an essay that establishes a nexus between what you've done in the past and the experiences that have shaped who you are now, that connect you to now, and how who you are now based on those experiences will allow you to thrive in college and in the future past that. And that could be, sort of, it could be tying in your particular area of interest that you might want to pursue as a major in college, or it could tie into your interest in a particular profession that you want to pursue as a career after college. But the key is to link who you are in your journey to and showing the admissions committee that you have an idea of who you want to be in the future. So that nexus is really, really important.
All right, we have the do's and don'ts for writing a memorable and impactful personal statement. Some of these things we've already been touching on as we have been going up, but one of the most important things is be honest and authentic. The college application, part of the writing the personal statement is to show up as much as possible as yourself. Let yourself be seen, let your words be heard. And part of doing that is just being honest and being genuine about your experiences and aspirations. So a lot of students think that they have to go out looking for these wild and outlandish experiences that they can write about in their personal statements. And you really just have to be doing things that you're passionate about, things that have inspired you, things that have moved you, and leading into those moments and connecting them to what you're going to do with those experiences in the future, how those experiences are going to be shaped by what's going to happen in college. You don't necessarily have to be going out looking for a particular thing so you can write about that thing. You have to go out and show up authentically in the world as yourself, and that alone is going to give you material to write about. And then one of the things that we've been saying again and again is really saving time to edit multiple times, proofreading, having people that you trust proofread as well, right? Really going through your essay with a fine-tooth comb, as we like to say, and making sure that the words that you use are as precise as you want them to be, that you're building this language and imagery where the person who's reading your application, by the end of it, they're like, wow, yeah, that stopped them a little bit, because you were able to show up as who you are and give them something really intriguing to write about. Some of the things we mentioned again, seeking feedback from people that you trust, right? So one of the things that happens when you're writing something that you care about very much, and something that's very personal to you, and then giving it to someone else to read, is sometimes you feel like you want to cover the truth a little bit or not make it be as real as it could be. And sometimes when we're, again, spending a lot of time on our essays or something that we care deeply about, we're not able to see those little errors that pop up. So you might go over your essay, 5, 10, 15 times and not see the misspelled word that has been there since, draft number 3. And that's one of the reasons that giving it to people in your life that you trust can really help you iron it out to what you want it to be. And we also want to make sure that the essay is concise and focused. So they'll be able to help you provide that helpful feedback as well.
Definitely. Oops, sorry. So the don'ts for writing a personal statement. As Keisha said, don't exaggerate or fabricate. Be truthful. It can come out very easily and be kind of obvious, even if you think it's not. Exaggerations, they're easily spotted and will harm your credibility. And don't use overly complex language and jargon to kind of make yourself seem more intelligent than you. Not that necessarily that you are, but just because it's not necessary and it can come across as confusing and it might obfuscate your message, which is that you're trying to be as genuine and upfront as possible about who you are and how you're a good fit for this university. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, again, as we said before, don't write what you think the admissions officers want to hear. That you don't necessarily need to talk about this extremely intricate research project that you may have had a hand in working on. And I personally knew some people who have done that because, and it's not helpful, like, especially if, for example, you guys are in high school, and not to say that high schoolers can't have done, groundbreaking things, but by and large, that's not necessarily always going to be the case. And I know some people who maybe not fabricated, but took credit for certain things that maybe their parents had done, and it became quite obvious to the admissions people, and it was ultimately not the most persuasive personal statement. So make sure that you are being honest and that you are not sort of adding credit where credit is not due. And also avoid, but on the other end of the spectrum, avoid being overly negative or self-deprecating. You're not trying to win the sympathy vote from the admissions officers. They're not going to want someone who kind of thinks lowly of themselves. Again, it's about that, finding that balance of like, okay, you are talking about a sort of a point of in your life where you struggled a little bit. There was a problem, but the message that you want to get across with the statement is that you are someone who overcame it. You don't want to end on, okay, there was a problem and that problem just defined me and I continue to have this problem to this day. That's not going to be very useful. And as an admissions officer, just put yourself in the admissions person's shoes. Would you want someone like that on campus who just kind of like gave up or didn't accomplish anything? Like, you want to have strike that balance of being honest about, what you're about and what you've accomplished without, being overly dramatic about it, but also not being super self-deprecating or negative to the point where it kind of seems like you don't have self-confidence. Be confident and firm, but not arrogant. Oh, okay.
All righty. Now we have about 10-ish minutes left for some Q&A time, if anyone out there has any questions.
Absolutely. And I see a question actually already coming into our chat. In the meantime, I'd love to, just before we go on with the question, you can see a QR code on the screen. Please let me know if you're having any trouble scanning it. What the QR code links back to is an opportunity to speak one-on-one with our admissions counselors with those free consultations that we mentioned earlier, where you get to dive deeper into basically pressing questions, any questions that you have regarding the college application process. So yes, we welcome you to do that. So we have Miriam asking us, how should we choose the theme for a personal statement? Should our personal statement be related to our major? That's a really great question. Panelists?
One thing I like to suggest to students as they're discovering what their theme will be is something that you can discover, right? So when you're going through the brainstorming process, which I really encourage that journaling to help you along, whether it's first thing in the morning or at the end of the night, but really start thinking about the things that you're passionate about, what you think your strengths are, and what your interests are, right? Maybe those, just start with those three things. And in that 10-15 minutes that you've dedicated to journaling, just free journal about what you think those are and what kind of moments you see come out of that. And that process can start to help you develop what you want your theme for your essay to be.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really important point you said brought up. And I think if you are really struggling with identifying a theme, kind of one strategy I like to recommend, it doesn't work for everyone, but you could take yourself out of your own shoes, so to speak, and look at your resume and look at your transcript in the classes that you've taken in school, and then kind of deduce, like, what does this story, if I were looking at this from a third party perspective, what theme does this, this person who is actually you, but you're pretending it's not you, does this evoke? And, for me, for example, I had written about my interest in science, which I kind of tied into with, my experience with being the founder of the science fair team in high school, and how I really enjoyed biology, and that was sort of the overarching theme. But it doesn't necessarily always have to be about relating to a specific major. It can be about a defining characteristic about who you are, like your grit and your tenacity, and how you are a self-starter and you created your own company or something like that. But the point is, it should suggest a connection with what you want to do with your life in the future, whether that be a major or a profession or something else. But it just shows that you're someone that wants to grow and has an idea and a direction. So it doesn't need to be as specific as, like, oh, I want to be, like, an international studies major or something like that. It could be, but again, it's hard to kind of, tell you without knowing your specific situation, which is why we recommend you do a one-on-one with us at Quad, because it really is a holistic kind of consultation where we'll really dive deep into your specific scenario and what works best for you based on what you the materials that you have. So yeah, that's what I would add to that.
Wonderful. So somebody's asking us, do you have any tips or resources to improve the opening statement introduction? I, in fact, do, and I'm going to link it in the chat right away. This will also be shared with you via the follow-up email, but it's actually a link to a blog post called How to Start a Personal Statement. Crafting a compelling introduction. We break down the how-tos, the definitions, the approach, even some examples. So I will leave that and I will highlight that in the chat, as well as it'll be in your email follow-up. On top of this, and I can include this in the follow-up as well, we have a video series, is what I'm going to call it, of personal statements. So how to brainstorm your personal statement. And of course, we can make sure that we link those in there for you as well. So we just want to provide as much value as possible.
Yeah. Always defer to the Quad education resources that we have. And even in the slideshow itself, we provided a sample that you guys can, look at and refer to, because that was a really compelling sample that was provided. And kind of use that as, like, a inspiration for what you might talk about and how you might open up your statement.
Absolutely. So I think we have time for one more. Oh, sorry, Tisha.
And I just add, as inspiration, right? Sometimes we share these essays and students feel like they have to just be able to recreate exactly what was happening with the essay that was shared. No, it's just to get you inspired, to get you thinking, and providing an example of how it could possibly be done, right?
Very, very good point.
Mm-hmm.
So we have time for one more question. Julian Alexander asks, does a personal statement need to have a direct challenge and resolution of overcoming that challenge? Great question.
I would say you should definitely, there needs to be a conflict. There needs to be some kind of issue, because if you're just talking about how, great you are, and, I'm sure everyone can do that, but that's not really that's a very static essay. That's not dynamic at all. It's not showing what your potential is or who what you're capable of. It's just saying, this is what you've done. So there needs to be some kind of conflict. When you say a resolution of overcoming that challenge, I would say you don't necessarily need to have and this problem was solved 100% perfectly, and then I did X, Y, or Z, and now the problem was perfectly resolved. That's not what happens in real life, and that's not always the case. What we want to see, and what I think admissions officers want to see, is someone who has the tenacity to fight for a better, to fight for a resolution, and to create and it could be an incremental improvement. It could be, but so long as you're showing that you have the grit and the resilience to create a better result, whether that be incremental or significant, whatever you have done that is honest and reflective of what you've actually accomplished, so long as you show that you have that gumption to improve over time, I think that is sometimes could be even more compelling than simply stating, oh, I resolved this problem 100% and then I moved on. So that's what I would say. But in terms of the first part of your question, direct challenge, I think you need to have a conflict. But Keisha, if you want to add anything, happy to.
I would agree. I would say that think of some of the best stories that you have read, right? Part of this is storytelling. Even children's stories, there's always some sort of arc that happens. So that's what you want to take your readers on. You're presenting us with something, there's some sort of arc, so that could be a conflict, that could be a tension, what have you, and then there's some sort of resolution that comes with that. So still you want to engage with the principles of storytelling. The storytelling you're doing is about and for you.
Yes, yeah, that's the word I was thinking about. I kept thinking tension. That's the word I wanted to say. I couldn't find it. Thank you.
Awesome. I don't see any more questions in the chat. I'll give our audience another moment to get in their thoughts. I don't see any more questions. Keisha, Jesse, do you see anything else? Or do you have any other points you'd like to share with us tonight? Anything we might not have necessarily covered?
I think we covered a lot, and having this in the presentation in an email format, that you guys are going to get is such a valuable resource within itself. So definitely take the time to go through that some more and reach out to Quad if you're wanting some more personalized assistance.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a really great place to wrap up tonight's webinar. And I guess that's all the time that we have tonight for this topic, but thank you very much for joining us tonight. Keisha, Jesse, wonderful audience, thank you again. To our audience, keep an eye out on your email for a link to schedule your own consultation, or if you have any sort of questions that come up later on, please don't hesitate to just reply back and we'll make sure that somebody gets to you. With that being said, I hope everyone has a good evening.